It's that specific, hollow ache that hits around 11:15 p.m. on a Tuesday while you're sitting in your car in the driveway, staring at the steering wheel and not quite ready to go inside. You look at the dark windows of your neighbors' houses, people who seem to have figured out the human thing much better than you have. The person who feels this way doesn't just feel unsuccessful in the traditional sense. They feel like they missed the orientation day for adulthood. They watch their old high school classmates post photos of suburban houses, promotion celebrations, and organized Sunday brunches on Instagram, and they feel a strange, quiet distance. It's like everyone else was handed a script at birth, and they were handed a blank notebook and told to write a symphony they've never even heard before. They are the ones who feel like they are perpetually booting up while the rest of the world is already running at full speed. They live in a constant state of wondering if there is a fundamental piece of the puzzle that everyone else received, but they somehow lost in the mail. To the casual observer, this person looks like they're struggling to keep up. In a culture that worships the 30 under 30 lists and the 22-year-old tech disruptors, they are the ones who changed their major 3 times. The ones who left a stable corporate job because it felt like a slow, beige death, or the ones who are still finding themselves while their peers are already settling into their second mortgages. In the high-speed, high-definition culture of modern America, where worth is often measured by the speed of your ascent, this person feels like a glitch in the system. They go to a Target or a Whole Foods and feel a wave of inexplicable exhaustion just looking at the choices, not because of the products, but because their brain is constantly processing the invisible weight of why and what for, at a frequency others don't even perceive. They aren't just living life, they are analyzing the very fabric of it. They notice the forced smiles of the cashiers, the hollow energy of the midday traffic, and the quiet desperation of the grind. It's exhausting to see the world in 4K resolution when everyone else is happy with a grainy, low-res reality. They are the ones who sit in a performance review and hear that they are talented but lack focus, not realizing that their focus is actually zoomed out so far that they are seeing the entire ecosystem while their boss is just looking at a spreadsheet. If you've ever seen this person, or if you see them every time you look in the mirror, you know there's a secret fear that maybe, just maybe, they are actually broken. There is a silent suspicion that their inability to be normal is a moral failing, a lack of willpower, or a defect in their character. But there is a logic to this delay that is rarely talked about. It isn't about a lack of ambition or a lack of intelligence. It is about the sheer scale of the internal architecture they are trying to build. Think about the difference between a suburban home and a cathedral. A suburban home goes up in 3 months. It's functional, it's recognizable, and the neighbors can see the progress every single day. The framework is standard, the results are predictable. But a cathedral? A cathedral requires foundations that go hundreds of feet into the dark, cold earth. For years, all anyone sees is a giant, messy hole in the ground. To the neighbors, it looks like a failed project. It looks like a waste of space and time. But that depth is the only thing that can support the massive weight of the spires that are destined to touch the clouds. People who feel like they've failed at being normal are almost always building cathedrals. They are often what we call cycle breakers, the individuals who have unconsciously taken on the monumental task of dismantling generations of family trauma, outdated beliefs, and the shallow social conditioning that their ancestors simply accepted. You cannot build a new, authentic life on top of a swamp of old baggage. You have to drain the swamp first. You have to dig through the muck of what my parents expected and what society demands until you hit the solid bedrock of who you actually are. And that process? It looks exactly like stagnation to the outside world. It looks like you're just sitting on the couch on a Saturday afternoon, but internally, you are fighting a massive, multi-generational war. You are rewriting the code of your entire lineage. Have you ever considered that your laziness was actually a state of profound psychological labor? Have you ever felt that strange, heavy fatigue that comes even when you haven't done anything productive, simply because your soul was busy negotiating with its own history. The internal engine of this struggle is a phenomenon that modern life isn't built for: the burden of complexity. Most people are running an operating system that is designed to perform a few simple tasks very efficiently: get the degree, get the job, get the house, repeat. It's a reliable system, but it has no room for nuance. But the person who feels behind is running a system that is trying to solve for meaning, for truth, and for cosmic alignment all at the same time. Their startup time is longer because the files are massive. They can't just plug into a 9 to 5 and be content because their internal integrity system has a hair trigger for bullshit. They can smell the inauthenticity of a corporate mission statement from 3 miles away. They can't just settle down with someone because they need a soul-level connection, not just a cohabitation agreement. They are the ones who would rather be alone than be in a room full of people where they have to perform a version of themselves that isn't real. This person often experiences what feels like the long wait. It's that period in your late 20 seconds or 30 seconds where you feel like you're in a waiting room and everyone else's name is being called except yours. You see your friends getting promoted to vice president, buying their first homes in the suburbs, and hosting gender reveal parties. And you're still trying to figure out if you even believe in the concept of a career. You feel like you're watching a movie where everyone else knows the lines, and you're the only one who didn't get a script. But what's actually happening in that waiting room is a process of distillation. You are becoming a person of substance. While others are growing leaves, you are growing roots. Leaves look great in the summer. They provide immediate shade, but they fall off when the first frost hits. Roots are ugly. They are hidden, and they are slow. But roots are what keep you standing when the storms of life inevitably arrive. Have you noticed how the people who had their lives perfectly figured out at 22 often hit a massive midlife crisis at 40? That's because they built a house without a foundation. They were so busy being normal that they forgot to be real. They built a life that looked good from the street, but was empty in the hallway. The late bloomer, the one who struggled, the one who felt like a failure, they did the hard work of the foundation early on. They sat in the dark. They asked the hard questions. They failed the normalcy test so they could pass the authenticity test. They didn't just settle for a life, they waited for a life that actually fit them. There is a quiet, hidden power in being a late bloomer in a society that demands instant results. We live in a country that is obsessed with the overnight success. But if you look closer, the most enduring figures in history were almost always the ones who didn't fit in. They were the ones who were too much, or not enough, for their time. The meaningful truth is that your failure to be normal is actually your soul's way of protecting you from a life that is too small for you. If you had succeeded at being normal, you would have been trapped in a version of yourself that was designed by a marketing department or a social pressure cooker. You would have been a high-performing cog in a machine that doesn't care about your heart. The delay wasn't a mistake. The stagnation wasn't a waste of years. It was the gestation period for a version of you that is capable of holding true power, the kind of power that comes from self-knowledge, not just a job title. When this person finally blooms, they don't just succeed, they transform the space around them. They lead with a kind of quiet authority because they've been to the bottom and they know the way back up. They offer advice that actually carries weight because it wasn't read in a book, it was forged in the fire of their own uncertainty. They are the ones who can walk into a room and make everyone else feel like it's okay to be imperfect, simply by being comfortable in their own skin. If you are the person who still feels like they are waiting for their life to start, consider the possibility that it has already started. The struggle times is times the life. The questioning times is times the progress. The feeling of being behind is just the friction of your soul trying to move a much larger weight than most people ever attempt to lift. You aren't failing at being normal. You are succeeding at being rare. You are the one who refuses to settle for a hollow victory. You are the one who is playing for keeps. And the world doesn't need more normal. It has plenty of people who can follow a script, who can hit the milestones, and who can smile for the camera while feeling empty inside. It is starving for the people who have the courage to stand in the blank space of the notebook and wait until they hear the music that is actually theirs. So, the next time you feel that hollow ache at 11:15 p.m., take a deep breath and look at those dark windows of the normal houses. Don't wish to be in them. Don't wish for their certainty or their straight lines. Instead, appreciate the depth of the roots you've been growing in the dark. The light is coming, and because you took the time to build a cathedral instead of a shed, you'll finally have a place to put it. You aren't lost. You aren't broken. You are just arriving at a different speed, with a much larger cargo. And that, in itself, is the only victory that truly matters. You've seen this in people you admire, haven't you? The ones who have that old soul energy, who seem unshakable even when the world is chaotic. They didn't get that way by having an easy path. They didn't get that way by being the valedictorian or the first person in their group to buy a house. They got that way by failing at being normal until they had no choice but to be extraordinary. They are the ones who eventually realized that the normalcy test was rigged from the start. It was designed to produce workers, not creators. It was designed to produce followers, not healers. When the third person finally stops looking at their watch and starts looking at their own internal compass, the entire game changes. They realize that being behind is an illusion because everyone is running a different race on a different track. Their track just happened to be longer, steeper, and far more scenic. Once they accept this, the shame evaporates, and in its place, a quiet, steady confidence begins to grow. They realize that they don't need to catch up to anyone because no one else is going where they are headed. Does this feel like a weight lifting off your shoulders, or does it make you think of someone you've been judging for being unproductive? Maybe it's time to offer them, and yourself, a little more grace, because some of us aren't meant to be the first ones to the finish line. Some of us are meant to be the ones who stay behind, to make sure the path is actually worth following. Some of us are meant to be the ones who don't just live life, but who give life meaning. And if that takes a few extra years, or a few extra decades, it is a price well worth paying. You aren't behind, you are just deep, and deep takes time.